do that. Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're good to go.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. Today is Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 3:02 p.m. And today is the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners meeting. I will go ahead and call that meeting to order. As far as establishment of a quorum, I do see Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Hunt both here remotely, as well as myself. So we do have all three commissioners present today. First on our agenda is under Reclamation and Proclamation, proclaiming August 9th through 15th, 2020 National Healthcare Week in Lincoln County, presented by Rebecca McPhee-Wilson. But first, we're going to have Commissioner Hunt read the declaration.
Okay, proclaiming August 9th through 15th, 2020 as National Health Center Week in Lincoln County. Whereas National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to recognize America's health centers, their dedicated staff, board members, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first health centers opened their doors more than 55 years ago. And whereas Lincoln Community Health Center, with locations across Lincoln County, is celebrating its 14th year of providing high-quality primary care, behavioral health, immunization, and maternity case management services to members of the community. And whereas health centers deserve to be recognized and supported for their efforts in expanding capacity and providing individuals in underserved communities and underserved populations with equal access to essential healthcare services, regardless of their ability to pay. And whereas the Community Health Center model continues to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geography, income, and insurance status, providing healthcare outcomes and reducing healthcare system costs. And whereas in Lincoln County, the Lincoln Community Health Center operates 8 sites, and the most recent year treated more than 5,000 individuals for primary care and mental health needs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners declare August 9th through 15, 2020 as National Health Center Week, and as such, offer our thanks and appreciation to the Lincoln Community Health Center for its contributions to the health and wellness of our community.
Thank you for reading that, Commissioner Hunt. Rebecca McPhee-Wilson, would you like to add anything additional?
I would be happy to do so. I'm really pleased to be able to be here with you again this year to celebrate the Health Center Week. While we're not able to meet in person, I am happy that we can still honor and celebrate the valuable services that health centers provide nationally, as well as our very own Lincoln Community Health Center. Health centers have been celebrating this week for 30 years, and it's in recognition to help people understand how important health centers are in terms of overcoming barriers to care, such as the lack of healthcare providers in communities such as ours, lack of insurance, lack of income. This year, the national theme is lighting the way for healthier communities today and in the future. And it's represented by a lighthouse. We can wholeheartedly endorse this theme, as Lincoln Community Health Center has used the lighthouse and a similar slogan for the last 14 years since inception. And our slogan is lighting the way to good health and healthcare for all. Lincoln Community Health Center provides physical health for acute and chronic medical care, preventative care, reproductive health, maternal child health, for all ages, and a full range of behavioral health services for adults, children, and families. These services are provided at 8 sites in 4 cities: Newport, Lincoln City, Toledo, and Wellport, and that includes our 4 school-based healthcare centers. Services are also provided in the community throughout the county. Last year, we saw 5,095 individuals. Approximately 25,000 of these visits occurred in our behavioral health and primary care clinics, and an additional 5,000 visits were provided by our case managers and care coordinators. These services are often provided in the community. Together with all of these, the health center had a total of 30,343 visits. You've heard me say before, that Lincoln Community Health Center has top-notch providers. We have at all of our facilities, we have well-trained providers. We have physicians, nurse practitioners, RNs, counselors, and other disciplines with specialized training. I'm very proud of the staff we have in our health center. However, the last 6 months, I believe that our health center staff have just shown how brightly they can shine. Once the stay-at-home order came in, our staff very quickly put together new ways of providing services to the individuals we serve. And in some situations, we only had a week to put that together. And despite these barriers, we have been able to provide the high quality care for physical and mental health through innovation, commitment, and dedication. Many of our services in behavioral health, particularly the counseling services, are now provided virtually using telephone or other virtual platforms. And this includes individual, group, and family therapy, both for adults and family, child and family. Linda Gray, who is our child and family manager, recently shared with me that schools are working very closely with our staff to help connect students to services, even though schools are currently closed. She also stated this very sophisticated parent-child interaction therapy and wraparound services for children who are at high risk of online technologies. And they also continue to work with youth and young adults who are experiencing first psychotic breaks and are able to provide those family and support services online as well. I wanted to say some of the behavioral health services also continue in person. Things like psychiatric medication evaluations and med management are in nursing support continues every day in the clinics. Some psychiatric security review board and community restoration, civil commitments, those types of things have had to continue on a face-to-face basis, but we do as much virtual as we can. COMET, which you know is our partnership with the Sheriff's Department, to proactively reach out to individuals who are at risk for destabilization, hospitalization, and incarceration, has continued to be very successfully working in the community. And then also our crisis intervention continues to do some virtual, but they also have to do work in the community or at the hospitals, emergency rooms. But we continue with a lot of community work, case management, care coordination, and court cases for the DHS. I think it's important to note that behavioral health has seen a significant uptick in the demand and provision of many clinical services since the pandemic began, particularly therapy and case management. The number of clients who are keeping their appointments is also up, which is sometimes an issue for us. You know, people make appointments and don't show, but they are showing now, and they're really valuing those times they have with our staff. Cheryl Fisher, the behavioral health deputy director, shared with me that these trends aren't necessarily seen in other counties across the state. And she sees this increase as a reflection of the staff's hard work, which I wholeheartedly agree with. In primary care, we continue to provide a mix of in-person and virtual visits. We recently opened the Newport Community Clinic, which is a partnership with the school district. They've graciously allowed us to use the site during months when school's not in session, so we can do more physical distancing in our clinics and see more people face to face. In closing, I just would like to say that this is a really difficult time for our community and across the nation and the world. And I want to urge people who might be listening to remember that it's critically important to think about your physical and mental health needs during this time. And I know some people are worried about making appointments and coming into our clinics, but please give us a call and we will work through together whether it's best to be seen in person or if we can meet those needs by telephone or virtual. So whatever is best, we can make it work. Is there any questions you might have?
Thank you, Rebecca. I just want to say a big thank you both to yourself and everyone that's working for our health centers during just I know it's said and said again, but it's a completely unprecedented time. And beyond just the pandemic itself and COVID itself, it of course presents a lot of challenges, other healthcare and mental health challenges as well. So just thank you for everything that you're doing, your team is doing to try to keep people mentally healthy as well as physically healthy, and continuing with appointments. And I know that you guys jumped into telemedicine, both feet, eyes wide open, just in a number of days to try to keep serving your clientele. And so I know that was a big challenge for everyone, but just a big thank you in doing that. I know it really did serve our community. Commissioner Hall, questions or comments?
Yes, thanks for a great presentation, Rebecca. And I'm wondering if you could share with me, and I imagine the other commissioners interested as well, your presentation. Those statistics are really amazing. I know kind of the hope of this week is trying to make people more aware of the community health centers that our past efforts. It's like they are the kind of the great community secret, though more and more people are finding out all the time, which kind of made obvious by the numbers of users. And, as the resident historian, and Mr. Belmont, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I am recalling correctly, I think we applied for the HRSA grant that allowed us to open the centers. I think we tried in 2005, failed. 2006, we made it and opened up the adult clinics in 2007. But the other great thing about getting this ongoing source of funding is that it brought stability to the funding of our school-based health centers, which some of them have been around more than 30 years, but it seemed like it was a struggle, keep the four of them viable. At times it was necessary to close operations before the close of the school year. So I am just very proud that we as a team in Lincoln County are able to offer this very valuable resource to thousands of our residents.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hunt, questions or comments?
Yes. Well, Rebecca, I'm going to, I guess, start out with kind of what might be considered an off-the-wall question. But healthcare has moved, which I think is the right direction, to wellness versus, just treating illness. How has that affected the health centers? And I recognize that maybe falls into a little bit of Rebecca Austin's area with health programs, but I'd be interested in how the activities of the health centers have changed as we start to address wellness versus just treating illness.
Well, you're thinking about just at the COVID times or prior to that as well?
Prior to that as well.
Well, definitely, we are certainly focusing on preventative measures and preventative screening. HRSA, Health Resources Service Administration, that supports the health centers across the country, have a number of metrics that are focused specifically on making sure that people get in for child visits or people visits, and looking to see, they want to identify the chronic illnesses before they really get so severe, and ward them off if that's possible. And oftentimes it is by addressing the issues that are creating some of the problems, diet and exercise and all the things that we know. But it is a change in the way we address healthcare, because the idea is that we don't want to wait till people are sick. We want them to come in before then, get the screenings. Do not find yourself in a place where your health is really at risk. Let's try to keep you as healthy as we can. So that's the idea. And that's really the focus in health centers. So when people call people up and say, it's time for you to come back in so we can meet with you and see how you're doing, sometimes they're a little surprised at that. There's a difference. But that's the best right healthcare.
All right.
Rebecca, you kind of cut out, but I think we heard most of it.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out, thought the video that the department put together was great. And as I think I said in an email, if I thought about it, I would have realized it. But it was nice to see the fact that we provide dental care, hearing care, and eye care which don't immediately come to mind, I think, when we talk about healthcare, but certainly those services are available. The last thing I think is critical, I'm going to read one of the paragraphs again because I think it's so very important. And that is the paragraph that says, health centers deserve to be recognized and supported for their efforts in expanding capacity and providing individuals in underserved communities and underserved populations with equal access to essential health care services, regardless of their ability to pay. I think that's very important. I think it's worth emphasizing. And the last thing I'll say is, I think Webster needs to come up with a new word. Like Chair Jacobson a moment ago, you know, these are incredibly challenging times, unprecedented times. I think something like, COVID gratitude needs to be put in the Webster dictionary that says, that's the gratitude that we feel for the hard work that everybody is doing in these, COVID-2 times. So keep up the good work and thank you.
Thank you. I'll be sure and share that with the staff because they're the ones responsible for all that we do, and they're a great staff.
Absolutely.
All right, with that, I'm hoping maybe Commissioner Hunt wants to make a motion.
I'll move for approval of the resolution proclaiming August 9 through 15, 2020 as National Health Center Week in Lincoln County.
This is Commissioner Hall. I second.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you so much. And thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the adoption of our consent calendar. I'll let Casey kind of scroll through that so everybody can see. These are items of a routine nature, but either commissioners or staff can pull items for further discussion if needed.
Madam Chair, I'll move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next up under reports, just a note before we kind of get into this, I think it's going to kind of be a flow with agenda items A, B, and C. We did add the 24-hour lodging hold. We will discuss that after we discuss our phase 2 update. I know there was a lot of questions coming in today about whether or not we're discussing that today. And we've kind of pulled it out and made it a separate agenda item. First up, Lincoln County Public Health COVID-19 update presented by Rebecca Austin, our Public Health Director.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. This is Rebecca Austin, Health Department Director, and I'll just give a quick update on the 3 C's. So on our counts, we have 415 positive cases, 6,884 tests, and you'll note that that is kind of stuck right around the 200 rate from last week to this week. So we do have some concerns about those numbers dropping. And I have some calls out to some of our partners to see if we can kind of brainstorm what's going on. But I don't have that analysis quite ready yet. So, and then let's see, we have a couple new outbreaks up in Lincoln City happening that we're working on. And it does seem like things are sort of shifting to the north of our county right now. So some of the concerns I have, of course, are, sort of what Rebecca was talking about with her staff, staff morale. These are challenging times, and, the public health staff are getting pretty weary. So, and at the same time, we're trying to fill some vacancies and shore up staffing. So, that takes time and, kind of a reprioritizing of our daily activities. So that's a little bit challenging. I touched on the testing problems and that we are seeing our community transmission rate going up. So it's gone in the wrong direction. So from a week ago, it's up to now 55% of our cases. So in other words, a little over half of our cases, we do not know where those index cases started. So that is a problem. And we can't say for sure, we can't say where it's coming from, but I think I continue to really believe that a lot of it is because if you look outside any window, it doesn't look like there's a pandemic going on in this country. So a lot of people are still in vacation mode and pretty much just doing what they normally do in the summer. And I think that puts us at particular risk. And the last concern I have is a school reopening. So I think we need to figure out what our priority is in this county. If we're going to try to get ourselves ready to try to open classrooms for our K through 3 children, if that's going to be a priority, or if we're going to open up more businesses in phase 2, because I'm not confident at all that both could happen at the same time. And then for our community, I would just say that despite having so many visitors, just being out and about a little bit myself this weekend doing some errands, I did note that most of the businesses I'm seeing do have signs up about our mask requirement, which was really great to see, and that people are wearing masks. So I think there is some switch. I know that we still have far to go, but I think if you saw the video or the PowerPoint that our intern put together on wearing a mask and its effectiveness, you'll note that we only need 80%. So 8 out of 10 people wearing a mask will really get us where we need to go with this pandemic. So I'm hoping that that's the case for sure. And I'll stop there to see if there's any questions, and be here if you need me for the phase 2 update presentation.
Yeah, I think you sticking around would be helpful because there might be some questions that come up from that. I guess one question I have, or probably doesn't have a direct answer, but maybe just your opinion is, those community spread cases, obviously we don't know where they're coming from. That's why they're community spread cases. But, you kind of hinted at the fact that you think perhaps they're coming from vacationers or from travel related infections. Now, granted, this is a weird year with school, not opening in person in many places, but would you think or suspect that if those are coming from vacation, that as the summer ends, that we might see a drop in those community spread cases?
Well, that will be the experiment, I would say. Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, if you look back at our numbers in the early spring, in mid-spring, when everything was locked down, our numbers were very, very low. And then as things start opening up, as people start traveling more, it just puts us more and more at risk. So, I don't think there's one thing that we can point to that is the culprit, but I think it's the, everything that we have done since March and April and part of May has really attributed to our numbers continuing to go up.
Thanks. The other question I have is, again, in that kind of community spread piece, is, kind of nationwide and especially in Oregon as well, we're seeing a large demographic in sort of the 18 to, 24, 25-year-olds getting sick and not socially distancing and that sort of thing. What's the demographic mostly in that community spread category? Is it across the map, or is there a trend in the populace?
Let's see if I have that broken down. I don't think I have that. I can work on trying to get that report though.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hall, questions for Rebecca?
Yes, just one. And I'm pretty sure you've addressed this at one of our previous meetings, but I still keep hearing from a lot of people. They look at 415 cases, 9 deaths, but only a very few cases covered. And Can you explain the discrepancy, why so many are not listed as recovered?
Yes, I was hoping to have an answer back from OHA, and they're going to address this on a call that I'm on tomorrow, because I did put that out to them to help clarify. This is something, the recovered rates are something that OHA started doing in the beginning of our pandemic. And when things opened up in the middle of May and got so many more cases, they no longer had the capacity, because what it requires is that OHA calls up all the cases that were positive and to see if people have recovered, if they're fully recovered, or what's going on with them. And then they go into the database that we all use and mark them as recovered. And since the spike in cases, they have not been able to do that. And so I'm just kind of waiting to see if, what their response is going to be to the public, if they're going to continue this practice, because I think we're all kind of concerned that this is something that was started and now is fallen by the wayside, but we have no indication of, where we are with this. So I think I will know more, Commissioner, after tomorrow. And if you'd like, I can send that information out to you all so that you'll have a response for your constituents as well. And we can bring it up at the next meeting.
That's great. I'd really appreciate that. That's my only question for now.
Commissioner Hunt, questions or comments for Rebecca?
Well, Rebecca, as you know, I've been tracking the virus since day one of the virus. My information that I have on my spreadsheet indicates that we're seeing an increase. It's not positive, unfortunately, it's negative, but it's a increase in the percentage of positive tests. Can you comment on that? My information indicates this past week, as of each Saturday, we had 9.4% were positive. The week before that, 4.3, and the week before that, 1.3. So clearly, we're going in the wrong direction. Does your data support that? I mean, it's data from OHA. I guess your comments would be appreciated.
Yeah, the data is showing that, actually, and it is going in the wrong direction, and that is concerning. And that's why I'm trying to get in touch with the Samaritan people. Dr. Brady is heading up their testing, and he's a great person. He follows all these trends as well, and is constantly trying to figure out what new platforms they should be going to so they can continue to get quicker turnarounds. So he's a great person to talk with. And yeah, despite the fact that our testing rates are going down and our positivity rates are going up, is definitely not a good sign for sure. And I'm hoping to have more on that as well after I get a chance to talk to Dr. Brady. Yeah, it's very disconcerting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rebecca, one more comment I want to make is just the comment you have made about, needing to, possibly prioritize between, phase 2 or reopening more, I think, as you put it, and, schools opening in K3 capacity, which we're kind of flirting with the numbers to be able to do that. Granted, that's a Lincoln County School District decision to do that, not a DOC decision, but I understand what you're saying between kind of competing priorities. And I have had conversations with Dr. Gray from the school district in the past. Last week we talked as well. Of course, just as we're constantly changing things and assessing things based on data, so are they. But I'm going to suggest that perhaps we try to get Dr. Gray here or someone from the school district at our meeting maybe next week, because I think that's a discussion that the whole board with yourself should maybe have on that. And again, there'll be additional data, and that's the week before, if an asterisk, if we were even approved for phase 2, that would be a week before. So I'm going to see if we can get her here to the to our agenda next week if the other 2 commissioners agree with that. I see Claire shaking her head yes, and I see Doug yes as well. So we have consensus there. So I'll ask Christy or Casey on this call to try to follow up with Dr. Gray after we're done today and block that on the calendar. So hopefully she can participate. All right. Yeah, if you could stay around for phase 2 update, Rebecca, I think that would be helpful, and then feel free to go off after that. So phase 2 update presented by Wayne Belmont, County Council.
Thanks, Chair Jacobson and Commissioners. Based on your decision last Monday, which again, for the record, was a 2-to-1 vote to go forward with making an application, we prepared an application which was submitted by Chair Jacobson and Director Austin on Thursday to the Oregon, to the governor's office to be reviewed by the Oregon Health Authority. And a copy of that particular application is in our materials. You can Google the county website, Lincoln County, Oregon, and on the front page on the left, you'll see the coronavirus information there, and click through a couple times and the actual letter of application is available for those to review. A couple of key features I want to note in the application. At the time that we made the application, we met the 4 original metrics that were required by OHA to move forward, and we met 4 of the 6 what they're calling public health indicators that OHA continues to monitor across the counties in Oregon. And those particular indicators are not a barrier to being able to apply for phase 2, but they do weigh into the consideration OHA makes and the recommendation they make the governor of whether to move into the next phase. And at that time, we did not, as we discussed, we did not meet 2 of the indicators. I want to make sure it's really clear, because people might be looking at this, then they look at our website and note that as of this week, there's actually only 1 indicator we don't meet, not 2. And as noted in our application, it's the fact that these are point-in-time determinations that are made by OHA. They're usually coming out late on Thursdays, and they reflect what is either a 7 or 14-day period, the previous 7 or 14-day period, and they fluctuate. They're going to go up and down. So what we're trying to do is monitor for trends, try and look at that over a period of time, not just at that point in time. So we did add some language to the website to make sure people understand that if they look at the website and it looks different than the application, that's because it is different and it is a different point in time measurement. The other thing is that, based on that and based on what you just heard from Director Austin, there's a lot of volatility in what's happening out here. And we're looking for overall trends. So we placed a number of caveats in the application, and you had chosen a date of August 24th as being the date we go into phase 2, but very clearly said in the application that you would continue monitoring the metrics, looking at the health indicators, having the discussions with OHA and the governor's office as to whether we are ready to move forward into phase 2, and reserve the right to either extend that date or to revoke the application if conditions in the interim period here were different. So this is really an ongoing process. We continue to work with OHA on seeing where we're at and where we're going. We continue to hold steady with the various mitigation measures that we need to do. We have to keep doing those if we want to make progress and move forward. I do want to note, just for the record, that we did get a confirmation from the governor's office. They have received this and it is under review by OHA. So we will keep you posted with whatever additional questions or concerns they have as we go forward with this. I do want to note also that the governor's office apparently is still working on some additional restrictions that could come into play statewide. We're not really sure what those are going to entail. We had heard about travel restrictions, but the only thing that I'm aware of at this point was a discussion about charging a different fee structure for out-of-state visitors at state parks. And then there's been some discussion about, actually, and this isn't related to travel, but now some additional guidance on face coverings in the workplace. So beyond that, which is very sector specific, like in restaurants and those places, but more general guidance about face coverings in the workplace. So that's the 2 things, at least, that I'm aware of that are under consideration by the state. And I'm going to stop there and take any questions you have on the phase 2 application process.
Thank you, Wayne. You answered all of the questions that I have at this point. Commissioner Hall, do you have any questions?
No, same thing. I did have some questions, but the presentation answered all of them.
Commissioner Hunt?
That would be the same for me. Thank you, Council Belmont.
Okay. One thing I did want to note is we did receive a letter, bring it up here, to address to all the commissioners August 5th from our Lincoln County Public Health Advisory Committee, basically stating that they don't think our county is ready for phase 2 transition, and they would like that date to be moved to no earlier than September 21st, 2 weeks after Labor Day, and that all 6 of that public health measures that OHA keeps track of being met before phase 2 is implemented. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of the letter that they had sent.
Chair Jacobson, if I might, Director Austin is the Director of Public Health, and the Public Health Advisory Committee is obviously to help advise her. Comment on the development of that recommendation. I would ask her to comment.
Hey, Commissioner Hunt, you're kind of cutting out on us there a little bit, although I think you're asking Rebecca to comment maybe on the letter.
So,
yeah, my audio is going in and out. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, no, the Public Health Advisory Committee had a discussion, and I'd like Rebecca to provide the insight and comment on the development of the recommendation.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Thank you, Commissioner. So the discussion was mostly around the fact that they do feel that we don't want to rush into this, and that the data is showing that we may not be ready for phase 2, and they would like to just add a cautious note to your deliberations. I think that's kind of what their job is, to advise the Board of Commissioners and to advise our local public health authority. So they all seem very concerned, and a lot of these people on the advisory committee are former public health professionals, or healthcare professionals. So I appreciate their input, and they were also sort of chiding me a little bit to be a little more forceful with the board in making recommendations. So I am taking that into advisement as well. But I think I've made myself clear about my trepidation moving into phase 2 too quickly, and that that would be my recommendation, to sort of slow things down, make sure that we are using the data appropriately. And I think that's mostly what the advisory committee wanted me to get from it, especially, and to pass on that their concerns to you directly, instead of it coming through me, which wouldn't be appropriate. So yeah, I would say that they're looking at the data as well. They have some very severe concerns about moving too quickly, and I think we all recognize that the more we open things up, the more cases we're going to get. So is that what we want in our community?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. And I think next week, as well as having Dr. Gray, I think we'll have another week of data, and we will discuss again from there. I know, speaking at least for me, that picking a date out was hopeful and that we continue to see a downtrend, as it looks like we might be seeing an uptrend, and also issues with having testing being done, which is super concerning. You know, I would just say personally that I'm going to continue to reevaluate, and I think next week is going to be a very telling week in terms of where we're at and what we do from there. We also might have some information back from OHA, but I will just say for the record that simply if OHA says yes doesn't mean that I would say we move forward. Previously, back in June, or actually, yeah, I think it was early June, late May, early June, when we were able to apply for phase 2 at that time, even though we would have been approved and we knew we would have been approved, and the commissioners voted to not apply for phase 2 because we were right at the very, very beginning of a PAC seafood workplace outbreak, and we wanted to see what that situation was before we applied, and I'm glad we didn't. So I guess next week we will continue the dialogue and discussion, and I am not a phase 2 come hell or high water kind of thinking. So, you know, my mind would be swayed based on another week of data and input and seeing where we're at, and also lack of testing. While that's not specifically something spelled out other than a minimum number of tests you have to meet every week, lack of testing is a huge concern for me as well. And moving forward, it's really one of the only metrics we have on an ongoing basis. Any other comments from commissioners?
Not this.
Okay. Commissioner Hunt?
I just say I continue to support go slow.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item C, 24-hour lodging hold presented by Wayne Belmont.
Commissioners, this particular item was under the restrictions we put on the lodging industry. We had a 24-hour hold, as you recall, before a person can go in and clean a lodging unit so that it could be rented again. That was something that was across the board with all of the cities in the county initially, and then it started to be peeled away by certain jurisdictions. And actually, one jurisdiction, Walport, didn't adopt it at all in the first place. And at this point, just for informational purposes, I have confirmed actually at the last time we acted on this, City of Yachats also had the 24-hour hold. They have lifted the hold since that time. So currently, only in the unincorporated areas do we have the 24-hour hold. You extended that hold through August 18th and said that you would revisit it before that time. We thought we'd put this on the agenda today. You could also revisit it next week if you needed to on the 17th, but we did want to have some discussion around this and see what the feeling is about this particular requirement.
Wayne, I have a question for you. While I know that other jurisdictions have gotten rid of the 24-hour hold if they had it to begin with, and I believe Depot Bay never passed that either. But I know some of the ones that have since repealed it also went to some other type of hold. I think Newport is maybe at a 2 or 3 hour hold. Do you have information on which cities have any holds at all?
My understanding, yeah, I think my understanding is that Newport and Yachats both have holds, and I want to say it's either 3 hours or 1 hour. It was different time frames.
So Wayne, this is Rebecca, and I think Newport has stuck with their 3 hour lag time between renting, between before somebody goes in to clean.
And I just was looking up something and I see the Yachats went to 1 hour.
Do we know what Lincoln City has?
I do not, but I thought my understanding, and I'd have to confirm this, is that they lifted the 24-hour restriction completely.
That's what I thought as well, though I'm not for certain. Commissioner Hall, questions for Wayne?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Hunt?
No questions at this time.
All right, I guess it's kind of time to discuss this. We have a couple of options. Without a vote to extend or to change into a 3 hour hold or something like that, And this automatically expires, I believe, on the 18th.
That's correct.
Yep, that's correct. So we could take action today. We could wait until next Monday, which is the day before the 18th, or let it expire. Those are kind of our choices. I will say that while I actually am a fan of the 24-hour hold in theory, once the train kind of came off the tracks with all the cities holding in place, when it was just us and Yahat still holding in place, and we don't have near the rooms that Newport and Lincoln City have. I really felt like at that point it just was not doing what its intent was. The last time we met to discuss this roughly 30 days ago, 30 days ago, a week, I guess, or minus a week, I had voted to repeal it. And I still have that stance, even though I like the rule. I think it protects workers. I feel at this point, with all the cities not on board, it just does not do much. A 3-hour room hold, I would agree with, though from a public health perspective, I'm really not sure what that buys in terms of COVID dying
Longer.
Okay.
So
Sorry,
it would be safer to go into the room. And I did sort of coach Newport.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. I would be in favor then of a 3-hour rule. Commissioner Hall's thoughts, and I'm also fine with waiting until next week as well.
I'd like to throw out a proposal and see if either one of you would support it. Commissioner Hunt all along has been very consistent in saying, keep the hold until we go to phase 2. So Mr. Belmont, again, I'd like to bring you in just to make sure something like this is proper procedure. I would move that we extend the 24-hour hold until August 24th, and as of August 24th, go to a 3-hour hold, provided the state approves our entry into phase 2 on that day.
So Commissioner Hall, I'm just going to repeat what you said. I was trying to kind of take notes here because it had multiple pieces, so I just want to make sure I got it. Extending the 24-hour hold until August 24th. 24th. And then moving to a 3-hour hold contingent on the state moving us to phase 2. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if I may, Chair Jacobson, just to clarify, am I correct when I say, in effect, keep the 24-hour hold in place until we go to phase 2? Because what happens if we don't go to phase 2 on August 24th?
Well, I think we could address that at that time.
So if I may, so the options on the table, recognizing Commissioner Hall's motion, is to leave it the way it is, in which case if we do nothing, it expires on the 18th, which would be a week from tomorrow, or to, I guess, vote on Commissioner Hall's motion, which would be to stay with a 24-hour hold until the 24th.
Right, and then go to a 3-hour hold on that day.
If we're approved for phase 2, but if we're not, then we have another discussion. I'm trying to figure out what happens if we're not approved for phase 2.
Yeah,
or if we vote to change when we go to phase 2.
I think we can address that at that time, but I know people in the lodging industry are looking for some direction on our long-term intentions. You know, there's other options today. If we take no action, as Chair Jacobson pointed out, we can just let it expire on the 18th. We could vote to, and we could drop it immediately. We could drop it with or without the 3-hour hold, although personally I am strongly in favor of continuing the 3-hour hold even when at such time the 24-hour goes away. But this is what I'm thinking of might be a reasonable plan of transition, providing that everybody understands the, that none of this is fluid, constantly changing. You know, I'm sure the two of you have heard what I've heard. A lot of people saying, either they are thrilled or they are horrified on our vote to go to phase 2. And I keep reminding them, this isn't a done deal. Circumstances could change. The state still has the power to say no if they don't think we're ready. So, this is an unusually fluid situation, but this is trying to at least plot out a partial roadmap for the weeks ahead.
All right, well, my feeling is that, what's the intent of the 24-hour hold? And I agree that if the intent is to, make sure the virus isn't in the room, this isn't the way to do it. But going back to Director Austin's comment that, there's no one thing that we can do to slow the spread of the virus, I see the 24-hour hold, which forces rooms to be vacant, thereby limiting the number of people that can come to the county and stay in those rooms. So in my opinion, a 24-hour hold is beneficial in limiting the spread of the virus because it limits the number of people that can rent rooms and come to the county. So I support continuing the 24-hour hold, but I will second your motion, Commissioner Hall, because at least it moves the 24-hour hold date forward to August 24th, and allows for us to gather additional data as to the trends of cases in the county and have further discussion at that time as to what I believe would be the best decision, and that would be to extend the 24-hour hold beyond August 24th. So I'll second your motion with that thought.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table, but if I could make a comment before we vote. Previously, I had voted to get rid of the 24-hour hold. I am in favor of a 3-hour hold now that I kind of understand the health benefit of that, and that would be on board with what Newport is doing, which is a whole lot more rooms than we do. But additionally, I would say I don't like attaching it to, I should say reattaching it to phase 2 and a specific date because I think it's kind of messy. So there's my comment. Well, and this is messy. We do. I just wanted to make the comment. We do have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair,
go ahead. Yes.
Could I offer up a friendly amendment if Commissioner Hunt is willing to second it? Just to streamline things, what if we say the 24-hour hold is extended to August 24th, and we'll have this as a discussion item again next week? Would that be a little cleaner and simpler?
I think that's a whole nother motion. I mean, if you're taking off the 3-hour, are you taking off the 3-hour hold and the connection to the state?
Yes, I'm just wondering, would it be okay instead of, I would like to withdraw my motion then and offer an alternative one, which simply says the 24-hour hold is extended to August 24th, and we will bring this up for discussion again next week.
So if I may, Commissioner Hall, what about going to the 25th? Because that way there's no confusion as to is the hold in effect on Monday when we have a potential to discuss it.
Okay. that makes sense, and I will offer up a friendly amendment if you're willing to accept that.
Yes. So, not to put words in your mouth, but I will second your motion that says we continue the 24-hour hold until Tuesday, August 25th.
Yes.
And
I'll second
and I want to clarify, and at that time, it does not go to a 3-hour hold, or we are discussing that at a different time.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, we're discussing that at a different time.
Yep.
Okay, all right, sorry, I just want to make sure I know what I'm voting on.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So commissioners, this is Rebecca. Can I just add one comment so that you're all clear that the 24-hour hold was what the science at the time was showing the virus could live on certain surfaces for that length of time? Just to add that so you make sure that you know that's why 24 hours.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hall. Just if people are following along, that then was taken back. A new motion was added and seconded that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries, and I am a nay. All right, next up under reports, item D, commissioner reports. I'm going to pass on a report. Commissioner Hall, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Last Friday, I chaired the monthly meeting of the Housing Stability Council. You know that housing has been a great passion of mine and something I've devoted a lot of energy to over the last 15 and a half years. And I was really heartened to see, you know, there is unprecedented levels of state funding through bonding primarily for the creation of new housing of all types, rentals, home ownership, special needs housing. And I have really been worried the last couple of months about the possible impact of the COVID pandemic and the economic downturn, whether the private, both for-profit and non-profit developers that we fund are going to be able to continue development in this market. But we approved a long list of projects, and I was really heartened to see that developers are being very creative in value engineering, taking other steps just to still make their projects possible. In one case, we funded a 35-unit apartment center in Bend, which is one of the cities that has really been hit hard, as Lincoln County, and the developer had reduced several of the 3-bedroom units to 2-bedroom units, you know, done some other creative things to make it still rental out. So some optimism there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Hunt, do you have a report to share?
Just a couple of quick comments. Number one, I think Chair Jacobson, you were also on the call with AOC earlier today, and I found it interesting, a shout out to our finance director, Christina. There was a report by one of the counties as to what they were doing to make sure they got reimbursed for their COVID expenses, and it was nice to know that our county was doing all of those things and had been doing them for quite a while. So shout out to Christine on that. Second thing is, I'll just report that Rachel Maddock-Hughes has been working with the Marine Innovation Center, and I believe somebody that Chair Jacobson knows well, Mark Farley has been working on that. And I have been talking with both Rachel and Heather Dessart. Heather is the executive director of the Northwest Workforce Board. And of course, Rachel is doing a lot of the fundraising in an effort to create the Marine Innovation Center. And I just have been encouraging Heather, who really represents the work that was done on the Marine Task Force, the Governor's Task Force that I chaired, to integrate those two efforts. And I think that will only enhance the products that come out which are really designed to be educational and job training programs to enable people to access the very good paying jobs in the marine industry, and an area where there's a big demand for skilled employees, particularly because of the retirement of the baby boomers. So getting those two groups to work together is, I think, a big positive step for those people that will be looking for jobs.
Yeah, exciting opportunity for the coast and for our county. All right, next up under decision and action item, this is a continuation from last week, approving the transfer of tax proposed property to the Confederated Tribes of Select Indians. I don't think Kristen Yule is with us today. I think Wayne might be presenting in her absence.
Thank you, commissioners. And yes, Kristen is in court today. So this is the culmination of a process that actually began some time ago with discussion about some properties in Lincoln City that we're looking for developing for basically affordable housing in that area. And you'd already provided some transfers to other public entities who are in the housing business. And this is the final transfers of the properties we have in Lincoln City. It's 2 lots and garden estates, lot 37 and lot 39, to the Confederated Tribes of Select Indians. And last week you held a public hearing on this matter and discussed with representatives of the tribe the terms of the land donation agreement and came to an understanding of what that would be. So what you have in front of you today is the order which is approves the transfer. We will then have the land donation agreement executed and the appropriate deeds executed and acknowledged, and get all this recorded.
Okay. I think, is there a question from either commissioners?
Could offer a comment?
Sure.
The Housing Stability Council last month, among the grants we approved, was one to have Habitat for Humanity of Lincoln County, the recipient of 2 other lots adjacent to these, $140,000 to construct homes on those 2 sites. So, you know, it's exciting that once we put this policy in place and are making our first donation, to see results happening relatively quickly.
Yeah, Commissioner Hunt?
I just want to confirm that, and again, virtual meetings have some disadvantages, and one of them is I can't find the order. But I remember last week we discussed the fact that these properties would be held in 30 years for a low income and not 20. Can Council Belmont confirm that?
I can confirm that that is in the agreement, that particular language and that date.
Okay, thank you.
So, Council Belmont, is that, trying to think back to last week, which seems like a really long time, it's COVID time. Is that a year time consistent with the other properties we had already donated?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Yep, thank you. All right, if there's no other questions, I think I will entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval of the order transferring the tax foreclosed property to the Confederated Tribes of Select Indians.
I'll happily second that motion.
All in favor say aye.
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 Great, motion carries. I will say this was one of the first projects I started working on when I first became a commissioner, and to see the last of these lots go is really great. So I'm looking forward to see the housing opportunities that come out of there. All right, next up under discussion and information, permanent and construction easement for Glen Beach Sanitary District on Lincoln County Park property, Glen Beach, presented by Roy Kinnan, our Public Works Director.
Commissioners, if I might, this is Wayne Belmont again, and Roy is actually out today, so I'll go ahead and present this too. This is something actually that's been in the works for some time. There is an existing easement for a pump station for the Glen Beach Sanitary District on this particular property. It's been there for a number of years, and they're doing some improvements and upgrades to that particular system. So they wanted to they had to do a couple things. First, they needed to get a temporary construction easement for us in order to make the upgrades they need to do the system. And then they wanted to outline, again, what the conditions would be for granting that easement. This is, although it's denominated as a park area for the county, what it really does is it provides us with a parking area for access to the beach in that particular area. So it's traditionally been utilized for that purpose. And what will happen here is at the conclusion of construction, we'll have that actually paved, it'll be striped, and it'll be set up in a much better manner than it was before for parking. It preserves access to at least one adjoining property that needs to get access through this particular area. And we've negotiated an arrangement that at such time as we want to potentially put in a restroom in this particular area, they would waive all of the hookup fees and grant us the hookup on that pump station to put in a restroom. And that was something that was contemplated probably 25 years ago for this particular area. It just never came to fruition, but we want to keep that option open. So what we're looking for today is approval to move forward with this. As I was reviewing the draft that's circulating here, we got a few things we need to tweak on the draft. Get some language consistency between the maps talk about a maintenance easement and don't really reflect the fact that it's temporary, and I want to make sure that gets done. So if you give us approval to move forward with this, Mr. Kenyon and I will work with the representative from Glen Beach Sanitary District, get it all finalized and back to you for adoption.
Any questions? Commissioner Hall, questions? No. Commissioner Hunt, questions? While this is under discussion information, we are able to take action on this today if we wanted to, and that would simply just be a motion to instruct our staff to continue to work with their staff to present us with an agreement at some point if they got there.
I would be glad to make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Before we adjourn, anything else from commissioners? Commissioner Hall, anything else? Nope. Commissioner Hunt, nope. Anything else from staff that's on the phone? No? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday. Oh, Commissioner Hunt? Oh, waving by. Sorry. Our next meeting will be Monday, August 17th, 2020 at 3 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
This conference is no longer being recorded.